Hey world, this is Nick Jackson, and I'm here with probably one of the most engaging, influential, just awesome principals I've ever been around. Please introduce yourself, sir. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Christian Tracy. I'm principal at Harrison Junior School, home of the Wildcats. Our kids are finding their greatness each day, whatever that means for them. So we're pretty jacked that we're in school. Excited because it never felt like they were going to come back. So we're pretty glad they're here.
Heck yeah. A question, Christian Tracy, Principal Tracy. My question for you is, what does the word enthusiasm mean to you, and why is it important?
Enthusiasm is just, it's energy. It's what you do. I use the word juice a lot. I like when the kids are here because there's juice in the building, and it's kind of this intangible. It was Jerry Maguire when he talked about the Quan, and it was this like undefinable, it wasn't just the celebration. It just wasn't the admiration. It just wasn't the money. It was, and not that any of that is necessarily, our goals are different than a professional football player, but it's that, how do I engage the kids? How do I connect with families? How do I change my community for the better? How do I build leaders and not just when I say my kids, I mean my kids in the building. I mean my own children, my own family. And so how do I wake up every day and do it? If my spirit doesn't rise when I walk through the door, I'm doing something wrong. Why would I keep going through that door? And so whatever I can do to take it from here to here each day, that's enthusiasm.
So I got to ask you, enthusiasm or juice, about 50% of the kids within our city right now are not going into a regular school during the school day.
Sure.
I see a lack of juice, right? I see a new need for enthusiasm. If you have one word to say to those kids that aren't going to school like regular kids are doing every day, that are doing their classes on Zoom, what would you say to them?
They got to engage each other. They got to engage their teachers. Didn't just stop caring because they're online. You and I have known each other a long time. I want to be able to see you, give you a big old bear hug and just connect. And it is different. But when you have these conversations, that you do online, you got to make it feel, and the rules are different, man. The etiquette rules, you don't get to, we don't get to embrace, we don't get to fist bump, we don't get to do all those things that we would normally do with our kids. And so if I'm a kid, I can take advantage of any situation. And the advantage is I have juice. I like to think 24/7, but if you ask my kids at 9 o'clock at night, dad gets fussy. Dad's tired at 9 o'clock at night. But for you might be a night owl. And so 6 a.m. ain't great for you. 7 a.m. ain't great for you. That's where I've got my most energy. So take advantage of that flexibility, take advantage of, you can connect at different times of the day, and find ways to connect to each other. Communication didn't stop. Learning didn't stop because we got cell phones or computers. It just changed. When I got my daughter at 2 years old using Siri to say, teach me how to dance, and a YouTube video pops up, and I see this little awkward well, let's be real, that's my dancing now. But for her at 2 years old, she's learning. So it didn't stop because of technology. It didn't stop. Yeah, she's on her phone too much. I'm on my phone too much. But man, am I Googling, I'm learning things that I never would have had access to. So to embrace that, it's going to be so important.
So my next question for you is probably one that kind of touches home a little bit. Right now during this COVID season, like we have a bunch of kids that are scared to be around other kids. Like they're used to being at home, they're being in sanitized environments, and we have a multitude of teachers who are scared to allow their kids to come back to school, or a multitude of parents that are scared to let their kids get back into school. Like, what do you say to the people that have heightened anxiety during this point in time right now?
Wash your hands. No, that's not it. That's so.
And wear a mask. Don't forget the mask.
I got mine right here. My office is empty. I probably shut all the doors. I said, everybody stay out. Right. I want to take my mask off for a few minutes. But the anxiety is real. And I think that when there's an elephant in the room, you got to talk about the elephant. And so that anxiety, the social emotional piece to this is so massive, because it's not just the fear of I got COVID. It's not the fear of I could get COVID. It's I've had to quarantine, and now are you going to be afraid to be around me? and not being able to have, what's the social norm? I have fist bumped every student I've had for 19 years, and now I can't fist bump. So, you know, we got to adapt, and that's okay. We go chicken wing, we do some other things, but, you know, acknowledge the anxiety and embrace it a little bit, because you can really grow from it. Everything you do from the moment you wake up till you put your head down on the pillow at night is going to be rethought. And so when you go into the grocery store, you go to see your friends, you go, you know, I love, you know me, Nick, I like sitting in the driveway with some friends. You know, now I can still sit in the driveway, but I'm gonna distance, and we're not gonna fist bump, and we're going to, you know, if we break bread together and have a meal, you know, hey, I'm not gonna lean over and say, hey, you, that half-eaten piece of pizza, you done with that? Because I'll, you know, we don't do that no more.
Right.
And so you just got to alter it, but acknowledge the anxieties, talking about it, being compassionate, giving yourself permission. You know, this whole COVID thing, you got to go through the stages of grief. We've denied it societally as a long time. It's still impacting us. And so people are going through bargaining. People are going through anger. It takes a little bit to get to acceptance, but once you get there, you can get there and do some pretty awesome things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My next question to you is really it's a us issue, not just a me issue, but a us issue. The climate that came about just a few weeks ago, where there was rioting that was going on, that anxiety that you're talking about, and that elephant in the room had really come out, right? How are
Sure.
you and your teachers talking about what went on and what's going on now? Like, how are you leading your school in this way? How are you keeping juice in this too?
Oh, sure. And again, it's you know, nothing bad happens when you talk. Nothing bad should come from being able to give an opinion and engaging in others. You know, I can tell you with 100% assurity, the one way to shut me down and to not convince me to change my mind is to tell me that I'm wrong. And so we got to start having conversations that are much more open. And we have it, you know, we've been doing it for years in schools. This isn't a new problem. You know, it's a microcosm of society. And we live in a community here where we have an incredible amount, a much higher percentage of firefighters and first responders and police officers that you see and you know their hearts and you know they're good, but you still have this dichotomy of kids that their experience may not be that with some. And so, you know, on a personal level, I always struggle. We're blessed. I have a school resource officer that I watch connect with kids and have open discussions. Yeah, he's here to protect us and here do things. And unfortunately, over time, has he had to arrest people? Sure. But he's also the one that'll sit down, and we got little guys here. We're junior high. So he's going to get on his very old knees, which he tells me about all the time, and sit down and have a conversation and say, let's be open about this. And so we've had conversations together that we might not have seen eye to eye, but to say, let me understand your viewpoint, and then will you work and help understand mine, and then let's have some connection. And so we got to model that behavior as adults. And then as kids, you know, kids have a lot easier time talking about this because they're not afraid. Kids are not afraid to be wrong. In some opinions, they'll be able to go out and talk about it and defend their opinions and things like that. And they can say it with you talk about enthusiasm. They can say it with enthusiasm, whether they have the knowledge base or not. And then when you can start talking about knowledge base or giving them the opportunity to go seek out their own knowledge base. And we want them talking to their families that may have different viewpoints. We want them talking to their peers. Where we make a mistake is when we say, hey, none of that's happening. Let's not talk. Let's not acknowledge anything and put our head in the sand. That's a failure. We got to talk about it and be real and know that it's okay to disagree. But we want to work to get on a common ground because our community's got to work together.
I totally agree. And one of the last questions I have, I got two more questions for you.
Sure.
One of the last questions that I have for you is, how do we encourage a more diverse teaching force in America? Like I see in multiple cities, I've seen a teacher shortage where they've asked me to come into colleges and high schools and motivate people to get involved in educational pursuits. But how do we pepper and how do we alter the homogeneous look of our educational institutions?
Well, you shut me down, man. I tried. No. Fun fact, I tried to hire Nick Jackson as a teacher and he would have crushed it, but he's making a bigger impact here. I'll give him credit. No, I think recruitment's important. I think, something hit me this summer. My daughter and I was flipping through the channels during the COVID quarantine, and a League of Their Own came on, so a movie about baseball, about the women's baseball league. And so we're watching. My daughter loved it. This is my 5th grader. And she says, Dad, can we watch another movie about baseball? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I download The Sandlot. I'm all excited. We're going to learn about, yes, we're going to have this father-daughter moment. And we're about 20 minutes in, and she's like, hey, Dad, I was talking about a movie that had girls playing baseball. And it was such an impact because, I never recognized to her that she needed to see herself in that. And so we don't have a very heterogeneous teaching force. And there's all kinds of statistical studies of, why that's the case in different pieces. But I think it's going to take generations to fix, because I look around at my models, the thing going around Twitter, when was the first age that you had a minority teacher, a teacher other than a white teacher?
Wow.
For me, it was, I had 2 in my educational career, 1 in 7th grade and 1 in 9th grade. And so if I was an African-American student and I go through my whole school and I don't have anybody that looks like me, sounds like me, necessarily, am I ever going to connect with that profession? Is that something that I can do? Right. And I think we very much undervalue that. I like to think that I can represent my school, and that, I hope I represent to my kids something that they would want to be someday by my own students. But I don't look like that. My background may be different than them. The discussion has got to be different. So I think it's going to take active recruitment. It's going to take steps of going out and hiring and identifying people that say, you would be a great fit out here, and going after them. We just can't throw out a posting online and just hope for the best.
Right. Now this is my last question for you, and I can ask you this in a multitude of different ways. But with the COVID season being a heightening or raising level of anxiety, and then also with the political season coming to a head, I mean, this is a time where people are going to be, or people are probably more divided than they've been in my entire life, and there is a level of angst that's out there. How are you dealing with that in your educational setting?
It's a great question. I mean, we deal with it every day because, we got, again, but adults should model kids sometimes. Our kids talk politics, they talk social justice, they talk any topic that you and I would talk about, they talk about very openly among themselves. And if you do enough listening, which they do, they are very more than adults are willing to listen to each other and have their opinions changed. And it's not just, our family's voting for this person because we always vote for this person, or whatever, whatever Republican or Democrat or whatever it may be. Kids get into a lot more substance. And I think allowing them to get into the substance much more than just the, I'm right, you're wrong, this is what we're doing. Right. So for us, I think it's, we know it's there, but I also don't think it's my role as an educator is not to tell them what my views are politically. My role is to provide them the opportunity to have an intelligent discussion with each other that's respectful and show behavior that should be modeled. And they do a great job within that. And I would never want to alienate my students as a result of a political view. And I think there's a difference between politics and social justice, to be clear. Wanting to have equality should not be a political issue. But who the president's going to be, or who you're voting for the Senate, right, is a political issue. So, and I think educating kids about what does small government mean versus big government, trying to get rid of some of the jargon and letting them discuss it. Let them go. That's where learning happens. Right. Learning's an uncomfortable process. Let it be a little uncomfortable.
I love that. It's so crazy, right? Because you can say learning is an uncomfortable process, but you are probably the most excited person to jump into that uncomfortable process with other people that I know. I mean, like you talking about enthusiasm, you're talking about juice. I mean, you're someone who definitely has both of those things, and I'm sure your kids benefit from that exponentially.
I appreciate that. I got good kids. My kids benefit from great teachers, great staff too.
Okay.
That's a huge piece because they're part of that juice.
Mm. Do me a favor. Tell the world where they can find you. If they want to find Christian Tracy, where you at? How do they get in connect with you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Twitter. My school Twitter is at HJS Wildcat. My personal Twitter is at Jimmy_Roy. So if you're not real big on what's happening at Harrison Junior School, and you want to see pictures of my kids, that's at Jimmy_Roy. I'm on Facebook as CT Tracy, and we're on Facebook as Harrison Junior School. You're always welcome to hit us up. I'm on Snapchat and Instagram, but I don't use them as much. I'll just be real. I'm old, man. I'm still on the Facebook.
Hey,
Kids are
what?
on Instagram.
No, yeah. Hold on. Tell me about Jimmy Roy, huh? What is that?
Oh man.
What is that, huh?
So I was the very first concert I went to. Now stay with me. Was a band called Squirrel Nut Zippers, which was a swing band back in the day. And so I go to this concert, and there's a band before then that was a rockabilly band called Ray Kondo and the Ricochets.
Okay.
Their music still holds up.
Oh,
And the slide guitarist was named Jimmy Roy. And I was an idiot because I was 13 years old. I'm yelling, Jimmy Roy, and doing all this with my buddy. And the next day I created my first ever email account. I didn't know what email was. And it was my brother who helped me set it up. Like, how about Jimmy Roy? I'm like, that sounds great. And so that stuck for you. And I don't want to get rid of it because I got too many people that are connected through that. So that's how that happens.
I love it. I love it. Oh man. Well, hey, this is Nick Jackson, and that is not Jimmy Roy. That is Christian Tracy over there. And thank you guys so much for being with us. Have juice and be excited about life. Peace.